and welcome to yet another episode of On the Grid Podcast, Season 3, Episode 43, I want to say. I actually don't know what episode number we're on. I think we're on 43. We keep on rolling out the podcast, even though we're in the off-season. We're still in the off-season. We are anticipating a return, but then again, the return to action isn't happening until March next year. I'm your host, as per once every 2 weeks, Adrian. Joining me is my right-hand man, my host on every other occasion, and my co-host for today, Ethan Evans. Ethan, how are you? Are you still hungry for a bit of F1 action? Are you getting a bit bored now?
Yeah, I can't lie. I'm starting to get a little bit bored. It was nice, like the first weekend, maybe just to have that bit of break. But yeah, now I'm starting to get a bit twitchy. But only another 3 months to go.
Yeah, certainly 3 months. But 3 months of filling in some time where we don't have any racing, and we kind of have to figure out some episodes to roll out. So last week, whenever you hear this episode, it will be last week. We did our average driver ratings review, and in this episode, we are going to look over our dreadful 2023 F1 season predictions. This is our driver 1 to 20. So at the start of the season, just before the season began in Bahrain earlier this year, we did a predictions video of who's going to finish where in the championship order. This is, by the way, I'm going to put a disclaimer out before everybody's going to start jumping on about, so, you've not included Daniel Ricciardo, Liam Lawson. Well, we didn't know they were going to be included. But in these rankings, they are included. So, for example, if I get a position bob on, it's including where Daniel Ricciardo and Liam Lawson finished in the standings, and also Nick De Vries, who had 10 or so races, and then had that driver swap with Daniel Ricciardo mid-season. So just to begin the episode, let's have a quick look back at what happened in the 2023 F1 Championship, who finished where, before we delve into who we had where in the championship order. So, of course, Max Verstappen won the championship with 575 points, with Sergio Perez in second and Lewis Hamilton in third. It was a close battle for fourth, but Fernando Alonso came out on top on countback. He finished fourth, with Charles Leclerc in fifth. A point behind came Lando Norris in sixth. 5 points behind him was Carlos Sainz in seventh. 25 points behind Carlos Sainz was George Russell, who finished eighth. Oscar Piastri finished close to about 100 points behind George Russell in ninth. And Lance Stroll rounded out the top 10, with the two Alpine drivers, Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon, 11th and 12th. Alexander Albon, a fantastic 13th for Williams. Yuki Tsunoda, 10 points behind him in 14th. Valtteri Bottas, 7 points behind him in 15th. Nico Hulkenberg, a point behind Valtteri Bottas, the Alfa Romeo driver, in 16th. Then came Daniel Ricciardo, who had a couple of races here and there. Obviously, when he came in for Nick De Vries, and then after his injury, he scored 6 points to finish 17th. The same point tally as Zhou Guanyu, who finished 18th. Kevin Magnussen finished 19th. Liam Lawson scored 2 points to finish 20th. Logan Sargent finished 21st on 1 point, and Nick De Vries failed to score any points in his 10 or so races in Formula One. I think it's best to start off from 20th and upwards, if we do that. So 20th place, plumb last. I can't quite remember what you put, but I put Logan Sargent. And yes, okay, people are going to scream, but technically he did finish 20th. Well, technically he didn't. He finished 21st. So the points, just before we delve into Ethan talking about who we put in 20th. So it's a points tally, and we're basically seeing who scored the most points out of the two of us. So you get 5 points for correctly guessing the driver's position in the driver's championship. If you're one off, it's 3 points. If you're two off, it's 2 points. If you're three off, it's 1 point. And if you're four or more out, it is nil point, 0 points. So Logan Sargent, I predicted him to finish 20th. He actually finished 23rd. So technically it's a position kind of -1 positions. So I gained 3 points. Ethan, how did you get on? Who did you predict in 20th? I believe it was Logan Sargent as well.
It will be no surprise to say, yes, it is Logan Sargent. So I also collect 3 points. Yeah, it sprung no surprises. Technically, if we're only doing it off the 20 drivers at the start of the season, he would be 19th, but he's 21st because of, as he said, Liam Lawson and Daniel Ricciardo. So yeah, 3 points for me.
So we both start very strongly. In 19th, I went quite harshly here. I predicted Nico Hulkenberg to finish 19th. Matter of fact, he finished 16th. So I was 3 positions off. Don't get me wrong. I kind of went into the season. I think I listened back to the episode yesterday, the very first episode we did to the season. And I kind of listened back to it. And I'm not going to put myself in a lot of glory here. I predicted Nick De Vries quite highly, and you'll see it as we progress further in the episode. You've seen he's not in the first 2 places, so you kind of gauge the idea where I've kind of put Nick De Vries. But I kind of predicted Nico Hulkenberg to come into the season and not to have a very good season. I think Hulkenberg certainly had a very bright start to the season, scoring a few points finishes. But then as the season kind of progressed, we saw how bad that Haas car was in race pace. And his qualifying pace almost certainly helped Haas kind of gain a few points here and there. But I predicted Nico Hulkenberg to finish 19th. He finished 16th, so I only collect the 1 point.
So yeah, in 19th place. Now this is one of a bad one for me. It is Lance Stroll. Now I will preface this by saying I didn't think the Aston Martin would live up to the hype of preseason testing. So with both Aston Martin drivers, I have gone a little bit lower than I think was the status quo. Because yeah, like I said, if I remember listening back to the episode, and I didn't think that Aston Martin were all that. I thought they would struggle, and I did. However, I will take this. I'm not going to get a point for it, obviously. I did say I think the biggest disparity between two drivers will be Alonso and Lance Stroll. Now, if you look at my points, then Alonso's ended up with 120 more points. So it's a good prediction that, but obviously no points for it.
I believe if my calculations are correct, Fernando Alonso finished on 206 with Lance Stroll finishing on 74. So it's exactly 132 more points scored by Fernando Alonso compared to Lance Stroll. On to 18th place. And the first 5 points of the episode, I think, go to me. Zhou Guanyu. I predicted him to finish 18th, and he actually finished 18th. I think, like we say, we're going to reference episode 1 all this time in this episode. I listened back to episode 1, and I kind of said Zhou Guanyu will kind of have a similar season to what he did the previous season, so relating to 2022. And I mean, he looked like he would be the kind of the lead in some races, but then again, if you look at points wise, I don't think there's much of a difference. I think he only scored, was it the 6 points this season? Last season. This season, we'll say last season. We'll say 2023 season. And I mean, it's okay going. But Valtteri Bottas didn't score that many more points than he did. He only scored 4 more points than his teammate and finished 15th. And I think Alfa Romeo in general struggled a hell of a lot during 2023. And yeah, I correctly predicted Zhou Guanyu to finish 18th. So I've gone to it. I've got a very good start, 9 points out of a possible 15 to start off these predictions. It looks like I'm cooking here.
See, this is where I disagree with the the way of scoring points because I got Nick DeVries. I've gone a lot closer to where he finished than you, but I'm 4 places out, so I'm not getting any points for that. So yeah, this is where I'm not sure I agree with our point scoring system.
And the game's the game. The game is
Because
the
I
game.
know where you've put Nick DeVries, and it is not anywhere
Right,
near,
right, okay.
not anywhere
Okay,
near this.
okay,
So
but
I am
that could be the same said the same for you and Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll.
okay. Okay, yeah. So I get 0 points, but I prefer not to speak.
I mean, it's. I reckon it's a fair system purely on the basis of if we're like miles out, we're getting no points regardless. And yeah, I prefer not to speak regarding Nick DeVries. I reckon I should get minus points for that because it's an absolute shambles. Um, but on to 17th place, and I predicted Alex Albon to finish 17th. Matter of fact, the lad had a fantastic season in Williams. Um, I just we talk so highly about Alex Albon, and I kind of underestimated him, I think, a little bit. I was thinking that this season would be a little bit more horrendous, a little bit more um reliability kind of based for Williams. But I think the Williams team, especially with their straight line speed, they coped very well with everything that was put to them. And Alex Albon finished way ahead where I put him. Well, he finished 13th, but still he scored over 20 points. And he was just tremendous during 2023. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does move somewhere up higher of a pecking order in F1 in 2025, but only time will tell. So I missed it out by 4 positions. So unfortunately, it's a nil point for me, my of the episode. Yeah, I predicted Alex Albon in 17th.
In 17th, I put Yuki Tsunoda. He finished 14th, so I scrape a point. So I move on to 4. Still got a lot of catching up to do, but yeah, I'll take the point there because I knew Tsunoda. Well, up until the last couple of races, Tsunoda was actually he was about 17th, so that was almost set. But he had a good few races at the end, scored a lot of points, and then ended up finishing up in 14th. So just a 1 point from me.
Well, you'll be happy to know that I score another 0 points. In 16th, I've predicted Lance Stroll. He finished 10th, so at least it's not as bad as yours. But it's still no consolation. He finished 10th. And the only thing is, I reckon Lance Stroll, if he didn't pick up his form, he would be near enough there and thereabouts. Like realistically thinking, I reckon the start to the season was kind of okay, and then midway through the season he tailed off, and then at the back end of the season he picked up points. He finished. Think about it. He only finished 12 points ahead of Pierre Gasly, and only 16 points ahead of Esteban Ocon. So he could have easily finished 12th. If he didn't have that good latter stage of the 2023 season. But another 0 points for me. 6 places out for Lance Stroll, who I predicted in 16th.
In 16th, I went for Alex Albon, so I got a point again because he finished in 13th. So I'm racking up the points slowly but surely. He had a great season, didn't we? Like you said a minute ago. We didn't think that Williams would be much good this year, but obviously we knew what Alex Albon could do in that car, and I think he exceeded everyone's expectations. One of the drivers of the season, and yeah, he definitely deserved to be up in 13th, kind of in a league of his own, really, because obviously, like we said, the Alpine and the cars at front were just too quick, just too far ahead, but I think Williams or Albon especially was the best of the back markers, if you like, producing memorable performances.
On to 15th place, and yeah, this isn't a great one from me. Kevin Magnussen I predicted in 15th, and I was fully. I think I've said it. I said it a couple of times during this season. He's living off the hype of the Sao Paulo Grand Prix pole. And I fully was as well. I thought Nico Hulkenberg would struggle against Kevin Magnussen, but it was actually the opposite way round. And if only I'd have put Kevin Magnussen in the place that Nico Hulkenberg, where I put Nico Hulkenberg, I'd have got 5 points. But I didn't. I put him in. I put him in 15th, and I was kind of a little bit optimistic for K-Mag. So another 4 places out. I get no consolation, 0 points. Ethan's starting to creep up on me. I'm getting a little bit scared.
Yeah, this is where I miss out though, because I went for Kevin Magnussen. I did, however, correctly say that Hulkenberg would beat Magnussen. I knew he would have a good season. You absolutely rinsed him, had him down in 19th, or 18th with it. Sorry, 19th.
It was 19th. It was 19th.
19th. See, you absolutely rinsed him. I had faith in him, but again, I put Magnussen a little bit too high. I overestimated him a little bit. If I just put him below Albon and Tsunoda, I would have got a bunch of points, but it wasn't to be. And yeah, 0 points from me as well.
And this is where the master comes back into play. 14th place, Yuki Tsunoda. Yes. And he finished in 14th. The boy finished in 14th. He clutched up. And I was optimistic, I think, for Yuki Tsunoda ahead of this season, ahead of 2023. I think against Pierre Gasly, I don't think he necessarily struggled. I just think he was a little bit outshone by Pierre Gasly. And he was able to kind of be given a quite a kind of a first driver kind of a free role in 2023. Because he was paired. Firstly, he was paired with Nick De Vries, and right, he's technically a rookie who's like 27, 28, coming into the sport. And he kind of he outclassed him. And then Daniel Ricciardo came in, and Yuki kind of realized that he kind of needs to buckle up his ideas, because I think he got a little bit complacent towards the latter stages of Nick De Vries' F1 career. Then Ricciardo got injured and Liam Lawson stepped in. And Liam Lawson did fantastically. Don't get me wrong. He did very, very well against Yuki Tsunoda. And then I think in the latter stages of the season, Yuki Tsunoda kind of saw that maybe AlphaTauri were able to make the kind of step up above Williams in the Constructors' Championship. But unfortunately, they missed out. But I didn't miss out. He secured me 14th place, so I'm happy. Another 5 points in the bag.
I don't think you were optimistic for Yuki Tsunoda this season, because if I remember correctly, and if we look at who's yet to come, you've still got a certain Nick De Vries to come. So I'm not sure if that's quite accurate. Okay,
hold it. I said that Nick De Vries would beat Yuki Tsunoda, and after Monza, we both saw what Nick De Vries was capable of, and I think. And never judge a driver that only does one race, because Liam Lawson proved us wrong, and showed us that he's worthy of a seat after a couple of races, whereas Nick De Vries kind of gave us a little bit of false hope, and kind of showed what he can do over one race and not over a couple of races. So I put my hands up. I was optimistic for Yuki Tsunoda, but I think I was a little bit too optimistic for Nick De Vries.
Yeah, I think the trouble is that I had AlphaTauri to be awful, and they were for the majority of the season. It was only sort of those last 5 races that they actually had a car that was capable of scoring decent points. So you were very optimistic for AlphaTauri. So again, it's one of those things that the end of the season has come back to haunt me. But in 14th, I've gone for Guan Yu Zhou. I thought he'd build on last season, and he just didn't, did he? He just he put in some good performances, but he was one of those drivers that became a bit anonymous, really. Outclassed by Bottas. Well, not outclassed by Bottas, actually. He was on Bottas's level for a number of races, except when it mattered. And that's why Bottas ended up finishing a little bit higher than him in the Drivers' Championship. But yeah, 4 places out. So yet again, it's another one of those where I'm just on the border of getting points, but I don't quite.
Now on to 13th place, and I reckon I should be slapped with a penalty ahead of the start of the season. But unfortunately, it's my episode, so I can't do that. It's just a 0 pointer from me. But Yeah, it's a very poor one. Nick De Vries, I predicted him 13th, and the man's gone on and I wouldn't say disgraced himself, because I mean he had limited machinery underneath him. I just didn't think that AlphaTauri car was suited for his drive style. That Williams and what he did in that Williams, don't get me wrong, was brilliant. But that was over one race, and I think going into a slower AlphaTauri car, he struggled a lot. And it was clear to see. So I was well and truly wrong about Nick De Vries, who finished 9 places below my expectations. So nil point for me.
Yeah, I went for Nico Hulkenberg in 13th. Well, I got a point. I was all aboard the Hulkenberg hype train. And if he got that podium in Australia, I'd be absolutely buzzing right at the start of the season, and it probably would be enough to get him near to 13th if he got those extra points. But 16th, so another point. But yeah, I think I'm a little bit too far behind to really catch you up unless I have a big points haul in the top half.
On to 12th place, Oscar Piastri, that I predicted in 12th. He actually finished 9th, so I mean, I get another consolation point. And if I remember correctly, when we had the discussion about Oscar Piastri, we did mention that he won 3 championships back to back to back. He won the Formula Renault, the F3, and the F2, and he obviously had that season out where it was rumored that he'd go to Alpine, and then he shot them down completely and decided to switch to McLaren. And I said that he'd compete with Lando Norris, and he did. You've got to just look at the podiums that he got, the sprint race victory. He's technically got a victory in F1 before Lando Norris. So that says something. I mean, the points tally wise, it disagrees with me. But nevertheless, he had a very, very good rookie season and the best rookie by far in a long time. So I was only 3 places out, so I finally get back on the scoring board after predicting Oscar Piastri in 12th. Yeah, very good season, very good rookie. Hopefully he builds on it next season.
Yeah, this is the one for me. This is the one where I made a big mistake. I had Fernando Alonso in 12th. I didn't think I had him this high, this low down. I thought I had him about 10th. But yeah, like I said, I didn't think that Aston Martin was going to be good at all. And I've made to look a complete fool. He's actually finished 4th, which is incredible. Great work from him. But yeah, 0 points for me, and let's swiftly move on.
Don't worry, mate. I'll come up next with Fernando Alonso in 11th. So it's not all bad. Yeah, I think we were both kind of putting Aston Martin quite low. I mean, it was the rebrand. No, it wasn't the rebrand. The rebrand happened the year before. And I think they just didn't have that 2022 season that they desired after switching from Racing Point to Aston Martin. And I think that's what kind of I don't want to say that's what kind of put us down from Aston Martin. I just think they didn't look like the real deal ahead of a season. And I put Fernando Alonso in 11th, so I'm 7 places out, and I get 0 points for that, unfortunately.
In 11th place, I had Oscar Piastri, so 1 higher than you, so I get 1 extra point. So that's 2 points for me. Yeah, great debut season from Oscar Piastri. We said it time and time again how impressive he's been this season, and I don't think the Drivers' Championship really reflects that. Where you think about the difference between him and Norris when he's been on his pace for a large number of the weekends. It just hasn't always come off for him. But yeah, 2 points for me. I'll take them and run.
Now into the top 10. A 10th place, I predicted Valtteri Bottas. Right, I don't know my thinking behind this one. I think I was just thinking that Alfa Romeo would be a lot better and improve than get worse. And obviously what happened, they just got incredibly, I wouldn't say incredibly worse. They weren't up to scratch. They weren't ready to battle with the midfield cars, your Alpines, your McLarens, your Aston Martins. And yeah, they just did not have a great season, did they? So yeah, another 0 points for me. And it looks like you're making a little bit of a gain on me. Yeah, I'm getting nervous again.
Yeah, my progress is quickly halted though because I put Valtteri Bottas in 10th. This one looks terrible as well, doesn't it? This is a number. This is one of a number of positions that looks terrible. He finished 10th in 22, so I think that's where we got this false optimism for Valtteri. Put in some great performances, but he's kind of just settled into that role as coming towards the end of his career and enjoying it a bit more without having necessarily the pressure like he did at Mercedes. So a big fat 0 for me, and no points at all. No.
On to eighth and ninth placed. I predicted the two Alpines in eighth and ninth. And I mean they finished 3 places out, so I get 1 point each for them. But the only thing is, which I should get extra points for, I predicted Pierre Gasly to finish ahead of Esteban Ocon. And what happened? He did finish ahead of Esteban Ocon. I just think that Pierre Gasly was just going to have a season where he'd get into the top 10, and that inter-team battle between Alpine drivers, the two Frenchmen, would be on. And it was. I mean, they didn't finish that many points behind each other. But unfortunately, they were outside the top 10, and I kind of overestimated them a little bit. So, I mean, for eighth and ninth, I still get a point each. So I'll become a scoring trail once again.
Yeah, and on to eighth and ninth. So I also went for Esteban Ocon in ninth. Got myself a point. I went for Lando Norris in eighth. So I got myself 2 points, but I know where you put him. So that's going to be quickly disregarded. So many people were writing off Pierre Gasly at the start of the season, but I thought he would beat Esteban Ocon, and he did. I did think the Alpine would be a little bit higher up than it was because it was so good last season. It finished fourth in the constructors, down now to sixth. And they really showed no pace at all this season, did they? They obviously had some great individual races, but over the course of the season, they were comprehensively beaten by the Aston Martin and McLaren in front, and so far ahead of Williams and AlphaTauri. So yeah, I'll take a point for Ocon and 2 points for Norris.
And now, like you said, on to seventh place man Lando Norris, who I predicted, of course, in seventh. He finished sixth, but still, I get a nice, healthy 3 points for Lando Norris. The thing is, Lando Norris had a very, very good 2022. And headed into 2023, I kind of thought he'd have a similar season. I wasn't expecting what we saw with a McLaren at the start of the season. I most certainly didn't expect that. But the resurgence that Lando and Oscar and McLaren had was fantastic. And he was able to secure a nice sixth place finish in the Constructors' Championship, and gave me a nice, lovely 3 points in the process.
Yep, so I went to the other Alpine, so we had these two the opposite way around. I obviously got the brunt of it because I didn't get any points at all for Pierre Gasly because he's 4 points away, 4 places away. So yeah, not great, not looking great for me, is it?
Yeah, it most certainly isn't, because next up, I predicted Carlos Sainz in sixth, and he finished seventh. So it's another 3 points for me. Yeah, with Carlos Sainz, I think I was hoping for a big season from Ferrari, and I think, I think I remember very well. I was thinking that Carlos Sainz would very much play the second role at Ferrari, and I mean for most of the season he didn't. I just think Charles Leclerc had a very, very good second half of the season, which kind of propelled him ahead of Carlos Sainz. But still, don't get me wrong. I'm taking another 3 points and I'm running.
Yeah, I had Sergio Perez. I had Sergio Perez in sixth. I didn't think the Red Bull would be dominant. Obviously, it proved me very wrong. Um, so yeah, I not a great one from me. I didn't have the best season for predictions, so I had him down in sixth, and obviously 4 places away, so I get 0 points. This is becoming a bit of a theme now, isn't it? I think this is like the fifth driver I've had that is now sixth driver actually that is 4 places away, so I don't get any points.
And guess where I put Sergio Perez? I put him in fifth to get a point. I think we both kind of were similar in our thoughts that Sergio Perez and Red Bull weren't going to be dominant. And we were proven swiftly wrong with that prediction. So yeah. Sergio Perez did. I mean, he didn't have the best of seasons, did he? To say that he had the best car on the grid, and he was swept away by his teammate, who's now a 3-time world champion. Yeah, it's one of those. But yeah, I'll take 1 point, and I'm running in once again.
Yeah, well, in fifth place, I had Carlos Sainz, so we got them the other way around again, and you've benefited massively. So I only got 2 points for him. I could have got 5 points for this for Sainz. I could have got 2 like I did. All depending on that last race of the season, and Sainz was up in fourth, so I was on for a big points total, but he just slipped right down, and yeah, not great from me. So I only get the 2 points.
And in fourth place, I fall foul of your driver that's kind of 4 places out. In fourth, I predicted George Russell. And George had a very good season in 2022, beating Lewis Hamilton quite comprehensively. And I put him quite high up. To be fair, I put the two Mercedes quite high up. I kind of had high hopes for the two Mercedes drivers. George Russell kind of let me down this season, and I think he let down quite a lot of people. I'm not saying that he had a shocking season. Just compared to his 2022 season, it just wasn't brilliant. I think his qualifyings were quite scruffy. His races went up to scratch, and I think he just kind of was a little bit worse for wear in 2023. So I fall foul of a 4 places out, and I get 0 points once again.
Yep, completely agree. I went for George Russell as well. So yet again, it's 0 points for me, and it's another driver that is 4 places away from where I set them. So that is 7 of the 20 drivers that I have not got any points off by 1 position. I think we're going to have to go back to the drawing board and look at the point system next year. I think hopefully it'll be an episode I host so I can decide. But yeah, 0 points for me.
The only thing is, you're talking about a point system. I did put a point system out to you. I don't think you just replied. I don't think you replied to me. So, I mean, we could have gone back to the drawing board, but you didn't reply in time ahead of the episode.
I gave my suggestion. Sorry, I had to work. Not all of us can have the time off. But
I work as well.
I gave my suggestion.
I work as well. It's okay. It's all right. Let's head into our top 3 and onto our top 3. And this is where I get the points and I seal the deal. So in third place, I predicted Lewis Hamilton, and it's on the road again. He's on the road again. I think if you guys listen back to episode 1, we very much predicted our favourites to win the championship. Max Verstappen to be directly in the middle of that battle. And yeah, Lewis Hamilton fell foul of the Charles Leclerc kind of chopping board and finished third in my predictions. But don't get me wrong, I'm taking it. I'm running to the bank once again. And I think I've sealed the deal kind of. It's done deal. Settled, dusted, done. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, so I went for Charles Leclerc in third because we followed the exact same top 3 formula. So I got 2 points for Charles Leclerc. But yeah, not as good as yours.
And on to second place, I obviously, like I said, I put Max Verstappen in second place. He obviously finished first. Yeah, I was just hopeful that Charles Leclerc would pull something out of the bag after the season that he had. But unfortunately, the Ferrari machinery just wasn't good in 2023. It wasn't brilliant. It wasn't fantastic. It was okay. And we managed to obviously snatch third place in the Constructors' Championship. Unfortunately, a couple of points behind Mercedes in second. But don't get me wrong, I still get 3 points for Max Verstappen. And now I've certainly sealed the deal now.
Yeah, so I've also gone for Max Verstappen, so another 3 points. So I think everybody can tell who I went for in first, and it should be no surprise. But yeah, it's not looking good for me. I'm on the ropes. We're getting to. I'm knocked. I've been knocked down on the floor. The referee's counting, and I think I'm struggling here.
Hey, you never know. You might have a consolation because I predicted, obviously, like I say, Charles Leclerc in first, and he finished fifth. So I fall foul of a 4 place gap to get 0 points. But like I said, I was hopeful for Charles Leclerc to finish in first in the Drivers' Championship. I was hoping that Ferrari would bring him the car that he needed to finish first, but unfortunately he didn't. So I finish these predictions on 0 points for Charles Leclerc, who I predicted in first place. And matter of fact, he finished fifth. So that's unfortunate.
Meanwhile, I had Lewis Hamilton in first, so I got 2 points because he finished third. So we went for the exact same top three format. We went for our favourite, Verstappen, and then the other one's favourite. So yeah, it just so happened that Hamilton finished third, and you were right. So yeah, I've been a bit unlucky there, I think, especially with the amount of drivers that are 4 places away. So I am not too happy. So 2 points to finish for me.
And Ethan, what is your final total out of 120?
Out of 120, my total is the number of drivers we started the season with. So it is 20.
Oh,
It's not close. Yeah, it's not
32,
close.
32, 32.
Yeah, you were building up
Adrian
some
Keeper.
suspense there. It's not close.
Yeah, Ethan got smoked for this season. But I mean,
There's always
you
next
never
year.
know. Yeah, there's always next year. And I'm certainly going to have to look through all of our kind of predictions, write it down on a massive spreadsheet, and see who kind of won the head-to-head battle in the predictions. It might be a future episode. We never know. But I've won once again in something. I mean, I'm not proud of some of those. Some of those are quite awful, especially Nick De Vries is a bad one. Which other one is a bad one? Fernando Alonso is a bad one, I think. Lance Stroll is a bad one, and I think only those three drivers. Valtteri Bottas, okay, I'll put Valtteri Bottas in there. I think only 4 drivers I kind of did a little bit ropey on. But apart from that, it's been an all right season's predictions for me. Ethan, final words. Yeah, awful.
Yeah, I think I've been unlucky. I think I've been done over with the point system here. So I'd like to submit a formal appeal to get this point system changed for next season.
Do you want a letter of complaint or something? Bloody hell!
I would like a letter of complaint. Yes, I would. Yeah, so I've only had a shocker on 3, really, and so I've had a shocker on 3. There's 7 which I've been 1 away from getting a point. So I've got points on 50%, being unlucky on another 7. So I'm overall I'm satisfied with my predictions because, like I said, I've only had 3 shockers, and 2 of them are linked because I didn't think Aston Martin would be that good. So yeah, not the best predictions from me, but I'll be back next season and I'm gonna take that crown.
Well, I mean, saying that, I think I've only had 3 shockers, and I scored on over 50% of the drivers. I scored on 12 out of 20 drivers, so I reckon that's what's kind of helped me. And me predicting 3 of the drivers correctly, and you didn't get a singular 5-pointer, did you?
No, I did not. No, I did not. So that's the difference right there. That's 15 points.
That's the difference. That's the difference, unfortunately, for Ethan Evans. But like I said, he'll be back. He'll be back next year, and hopefully he'll be looking for a bit of revenge on me after these predictions. But once again, thank you, Ethan, for joining me on another episode of On the Grid Podcast. That's it for episode 43. We'll be back next week with another wacky topic, with another wacky episode to keep you lot entertained in the off season. But in the meantime, thank you for listening. Thank you for looking over all of our stuff. Thank you for watching all of our stuff. We'll see you next week. Thank you and goodbye.